Good morning, everyone. Today we are taking up the poem My Mother at 66, written by Kamala Das. This has been taken from your class 12 book, Flamingo. This poem, My Mother at 66, has been written by Kamala Das. Kamala Das was born in 1934 in Malabar, that is in Kerala. She is recognized as one of India's foremost poets. Her works are known for their originality, versatility, and the indigenous flavor of the soil. She has published many novels and short stories in English and Malayalam under the name Madhavakutty. She is a very sensitive writer who captures the complex subtleties of human relationships. In this particular poem, she talks of mother-daughter relationship. Okay. It's interesting to know that Kamala Das shared a beautiful bond with her mother, and her mother was also a writer. The poem touches upon the theme of the filial bond between the mother and daughter, smeared in the backdrop of nostalgia and fear. Nostalgia of the past and fear of the future without her. Kamala Das, children, you should know that she shared a beautiful bond with her mother, and even her mother was a writer. Before we go on to the explanation of the poem, I want you to ponder on something. Death, we all know, is an inevitable reality of life, children. Life is eternal and ceaseless. If on one side it fades away, well, on the other it bursts with energy. Aging, we all know, is a natural process. Have you ever thought what our elderly parents expect from us? Now, this is a short writing activity. You will just write in 50 to 80 words. All right, so before we go on to the explanation, I want you to know the rhyme scheme of this particular poem. In case it is asked in the exam, you are going to write the poem has no rhyme scheme. It is written in free verse and it ends in an ellipsis. What is an ellipsis? It is mentioned there. An ellipsis is the omission from speech or writing of a word or words that are superfluous or able to be understood from contextual clues. It is basically a different style of writing altogether. It is as if the poet is trying to narrate one thought after the other as it comes to her mind. Driving from my parents' home to Cochin last Friday morning, I saw my mother beside me. All right, so in the beginning, the reader has been told that the poet had come to her mother's home and now she is going back. So while going back, she is being accompanied by her mother in a car. Doze, open-mouthed, her face ashen like that of a corpse, and realized with pain that she was as old as she looked. Now here, when my mother is sitting right next to me in the car, my refers to the poet here, children. So the poet, she looks at her mother and observes her. She says, the mother had dozed. Doze means sleep lightly, okay? Her mouth was open and her face seems drained of all color. And there is a simile here. Her face is compared because her face is compared to a lifeless corpse because she looks like a lifeless corpse, okay? Ashen is pale, extremely pale. So her face looked extremely pale, and that is why in this simile, the poet has compared her face to a lifeless corpse. And then it was then that the poet realized with pain that she was as old as she looked. Here, she realizes, Kamala Das realizes that her mother is no longer young and her appearance has caught up with her age. Now, children, this is a harsh reality. It is difficult to digest, and therefore, she diverts her attention to something else. All right. So the poet realizes that this is a harsh reality and my mother is aging and therefore she diverts her attention to something else. So the poet says, but soon put that thought away and looked out at young trees sprinting, the merry children spilling out of their homes. So, in order to escape this unpleasant image of her aging mother, she looks out of the window. The poet wants to put that thought away as it is quite disturbing to her. So she looks out of the window, and when she looks out of the window, what does she see? She sees young trees and she sees merry children. Okay. So now the poet has drawn a contrasting image here for the reader. Please observe this. The poet has drawn a contrast between her aging mother and young trees and merry children. Okay. And there are two more poetic devices here. Young trees sprinting. What do you mean by the word sprinting? Sprinting is the athletic sport of running distances of 400 meters or less. So why are the young trees sprinting? Why they are not sprinting, but it appears that they are sprinting. Why? Because the car is moving very fast. So it seemed to the poet that all the trees are running at full speed past her. Okay, and the trees have been personified here. They have been given human like, they have been attributed human like characteristics here. So this is a personification. And merry children spilling is a metaphor here. Now from exam point of view, if you are asked what is the poetic device here, my suggestion would be that when you are asked about young trees, yes, you definitely should write personification, and merry children spelling, definitely you will write metaphor. Apart from that, so first preference would be personification and metaphor, and after writing that, please do mention that poet has also drawn a contrast between her aging mother and young trees. Okay, so this is the image. Merry children spelling, then when the poet sees happy, cheerful children bursting with energy as they spill out of their homes. Okay. Now, please observe the use of spilling out here. Okay. Now, spilling implies that life is a continuous flowing river which cannot be stopped. It is full of joy, dynamic, and it is also dynamic and vibrant, just like these merry children. But after the airport security check, standing a few yards away, I looked again at her, worn pale as a late winter's moon. Now, the poet and her mother, they reached the airport. Now, airport children is kind of an impersonal place. Once you reach there, you get engrossed in various activities because you have a lot of formalities to complete, collecting boarding pass, security check, etc., etc. So once the poet reached the airport, she got busy with all these activities. But later, when she realized that her mother is also there, she looked at her mother's worn, pale face again. Now here again one more simile. Pale as a worn and pale as a late winter's moon. Now here the mother's face has been compared to a late winter's moon. It is a beautiful simile in poetry. It is supposed to be traditionally, it is again I would say a beautiful simile. In poetry, traditional poetry, winter's moon reflects the waxing and waning of the moon. If we observe here from this poem's point of view, it refers to the waning of the moon, which symbolizes approaching death. And felt that old familiar ache, my childhood fear. But all I said was, see you soon, Amma. All I did was smile and smile and smile. As a daughter, perhaps Kamala Das wanted to stay back when she felt that old familiar ache of hers, that known childhood fear of the poet which always overpowers her. Whenever she looks at her aging mother, she is reminded of that childhood fear of hers. cropping up of this childhood fear time and again also signify that the poet is concerned about her mother's health and old age. Perhaps she wants to stay back, but can she? No, she cannot. She cannot wait even a single minute longer. She has perhaps other commitments to meet. So she has to go and she leaves. But before that, she tries to hide this fear of hers. She tries to hide her familiar ache, her childhood fear, and her flawless facade masked her real emotions. So she hides her real emotions, children, and she smiles and she tells her mother, "See you soon, Amma." Now, the poet has used this repetition of the word smile here, okay? Try to read between the lines, children. Okay, she is smiling and she is asserting that I will see you soon, Amma. So she assures herself and she assures her mom that they will meet very, very soon. Okay, I hope you all understood the poem. Let us quickly recapitulate these few things. These are a few points on the basis of which you can just do a quick recapitulation. The theme, the tone, the rhyme scheme, and the poetic devices that have been used in the poem. Okay. So that was the end of the explanation of the poem, My Mother at 66 by Kamala Das. Thank you, everyone.